topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the host and their guests, and not those of W4CS Radio, its employees, or affiliates. W4CS makes no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening to the Cancer Support Network on W4CS.com.
Hi, welcome everyone to another episode of Light Up Your Life. And I'm Arthi with the Holistic Life Care, and I'm so happy to be with you today. Just wanted to start off by saying I always hope that you're doing well, and energy-wise, it has astrologically also been a really heavy week for so many people. And just want to remind you, sometimes we need an explanation for why we're feeling a certain way, but there's definitely a heavy pull right now. So if you're in a little bit of a funk, give yourself some time, and it's completely normal sometimes for us all to collectively feel that way. And so today's topic and our guest is a really great way to help us work better. And I couldn't have asked for better timing when we talk about mindfulness. As you know, mindfulness is a big movement right now in this country. The parts of the world are really already have been there for many, many years, and generationally and ancestrally, and even collectively in our culture, in our society, mindfulness has been there with our indigenous Native American population, and with so many of your ancestors who actually found a way when they cultivated their land and did work with the soil. They were actually being mindful in so many different ways. And Mira, our guest speaker today, and I will explore the concept of mindfulness, and she'll explain what it means when we talk about it with our youth and even with ourselves, and gauging our inward spirit. So Meera Desai is the founding director of Glitterminds, LLC, which is based in Northern Virginia. And it's a great company that she designed out of her love and passion for empowering youth and families and anyone that can be empowered in the realm of education through yoga and mindfulness. She also provides educational support for children. And Mira has found a way during the challenging times of COVID to take things from live instruction to really finding a way to design it to be offered online, which is an amazing, amazing thing that she's been able to provide for children and families that she has served. Mira is also a mother to two daughters, and she also serves in so many capacities in her community and provides service for wherever that she actually encounters. And that's what makes her so awesome in terms of providing us with information on mindfulness. I'm really excited to bring Mira on today and having a courageous conversation about how and what is mindfulness and how to get there. Because actually our goal is to help inform you that it really is a simple and effective tool for changing your lives. So welcome, Mira.
Thank you, Arthi. Thank you so much for having me here.
No, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
I also should add, Mira, that we're really, really tight friends, and that Mira, actually, I want to thank you for helping provide me so many mindfulness moments in this COVID period where, you didn't really, I didn't talk to a lot of people on the phone, but when we were connecting, it really provided me a lot of solace. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Arthi, you did the same for me. So, talking about it and practicing it with your close friends or your kids, it helps. It helps to deepen your practice. So yes. Thank you for that.
Yes. So Mira, let's go rewind way back. Can you just start by talking, because I actually know for you that the foundation has been really strong from your family and your youth. So can you talk about your personal journey of yoga and mindfulness so we can kind of understand where and how this has come to and for you?
Sure. So I grew up in a household, where mindfulness and meditation was an everyday practice. It was daily. Both my parents would meditate every morning and every night, so we would see them model that, and they would embody that behavior and that practice. So we saw that. We grew up with that. It was very valuable, that experience. You don't know that as a kid, right? You follow and you try to sit next to your dad who's meditating. I would do that, right? And I would probably last maybe a minute or two in that stillness, right? But that environment was created for us. And now as an adult, I know that what that did for me, and it planted the seeds, right? And it instilled that value in us, and you turn back to that, you fall back on that skill that you learn at a young age. So I remember growing up. So I grew up in Calgary, Canada, and we were right by the Rockies, an hour away from the Rockies. So we would probably drive out to the Rockies 5 or 6 times a year. And my dad and my mom, they embraced that, right? Getting in touch with nature is another way of staying mindful, in your daily practice. So we would do that, and we would drive out. And back then we had Walkmans. So my dad would be like, you guys are listening to that music, turn it off and look at the scenery and embrace it and smell that fresh air, right? And I remember that memory stuck with me, right? That he was embracing that moment and getting in touch with nature, right? And now that whenever we go and visit, it's like, it's a dream. You just embrace that moment and you're so present. And I think it's just easy to be present when you are out there, in the mountains. You just forget the world and you're just right in the here and now. Yeah.
Yes.
So
you're so right. There are certain what nature and mindfulness is versus how, and you and I will talk about that. I'm really curious on your take about how you minimize distractions and trying to be mindful. But before we get there, what is because there's so much floating around. Of course, all the gurus have their definition of what mindfulness, but would love to hear from you, what your definition is for mindfulness.
Absolutely. When I'm explaining mindfulness to kids, right, I simplify it, and I tell them that mindfulness is what's happening right now, right? And you're looking at what's happening right now with curiosity and kindness, right? So that is a simple way for kids to grasp that sentence, right? Paying attention to right now. But there are lots of elements to it, right? There's when we're saying paying attention to what's happening right now, it's being present, being in that present moment, right? And not staying focused on that present moment, right? And when we say curiosity and kindness, it's an easier way of explaining that to kids, that we're trying to say you're looking at that moment in a non-judgmental way, right? You are approaching that thought or that feeling in a non-judgmental way. So paying attention to right now, to what's happening inside of you, right? Your thoughts and feelings, as well as what's happening around you, right? Your environment, right? And how you are looking at it, right? So that those are elements. And 2 things I'd like to tell you, about that mindfulness definition is, 1, staying present, staying focused. Just like you said, it'd be interesting to know how we stay focused without getting distracted, because I think that's a big thing that kids want to learn how to do when they're in their school, when they're at school, writing a test or playing a sport, right? How to stay focused. And number 2, how to not think about or worry about the future or the past, dwelling on the past, and just staying truly present to what it is that they are doing right now or they are feeling right now.
I just love the fact that you use curiosity and kindness in your definition, because essentially those are those lifelong skills that you want to have embedded for our youth, which then leads to great adults and a great society. But I think to have that succinct definition, I just think that's so powerful. So that's awesome. So can you share with us your professional journey of how did Glitterminds come? So it seems like there's a lot of planting of the seeds from your family, which you just shared. So can you talk about your journey to becoming an entrepreneur and sharing that with us?
For sure. So with the program that I started, so I did tell you right about the start when my background, right? It was a pretty strong foundation that my parents built for me. And I would practice with them every now and then, practice mindfulness and meditation. But there was a time, as you got older, let me back it up here. As a teenager, I started working with kids, right? So probably around 15 years old, I worked at the Children's Hospital. I volunteered there, and I assisted a psychologist with the program with kids who had special needs. So that was probably my first introduction to working with children, especially with diverse backgrounds. And from there, I moved forward. When I was in college, I would work with the YMCA kids and help them build their confidence, and especially those who who were looking for extra guidance, right? They came from unique backgrounds, and we would help them find their first jobs and work on interpersonal skills and build those relationships, and having those solid skills before they tackle the real world, right? So we would work on that. And I think as I worked through all those different programs and learning and going through those different experiences, I developed a passion for working with kids. And then, of course, Arthi had mentioned earlier that as an adult, I now have 2 girls who are 9 and 11 years old. And they definitely were an inspiration for me to start this teaching children's yoga and mindfulness program. And so I created this program, seeing how it was, as I'm raising my kids, right? As a mom, I'm raising my kids and seeing the need for it, and seeing how it can help those kids go through their emotions and go through their feelings, and how to manage it and how to be okay with it, and feeling that it's all natural and normal, right? It's like riding the wave, how to help them ride the wave, right? Through all the ups and downs in life. And from that, I think I was truly inspired by my kids, and I decided that I would love to share this experience and help those learn those skills through possibly an after-school program, right? So that it can be accessible to kids right after school, and make it easier for parents to have access to it. So I developed the Glitterminds program from that and offered it to the schools, so that kids can have a place to unwind, to release, to have fun, right? After a hard day at school. And I guess from there, I dived into the COVID world and started the online program for that year last year, and also the camps that you and I have done together as well. So yeah, I've enjoyed the experience so far, and I'm excited to move forward with it as well.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that you use your personal life, as many folks can attest if they're listening or tuning in. If you do carry the hat of a parent, or even if you are family members involved with children, it does change your life forever, and you do tend to grow in a different way. So to hear that from you and your story, I'm sure that the girls are going to be so empowered with this gift. They already are, but the forthcoming.
Yeah, just like you said, right? It's continuous. It's a continuous practice. It's like a muscle, right? You work on it, you strengthen it, you find different ways to practice mindfulness, right? Through your daily life, to bring it in as much as you can, and so you can deepen that practice, right? And what a great idea to introduce it to kids, because as adults, we are practicing yoga. I know for myself, when I practice yoga, I'm just loving that space that I get into, right? To really focus myself and care for myself, right? So I can be my best. So why not kids find that their way and their journey to finding their best selves, right? And living their best life, right? Through this practice.
Mira, I'm glad you're mentioning this because our sports athletes, when you talked about muscle, it prompted me to think about sports athletes. And, after the Super Bowl, I did some research on Tom Brady because I was just curious about him being in his 40s and being as fit as can be. And a lot of his practice is about really a great disciplined life that he feels very proud of. He's disciplined with his practice and his nutrition. He's disciplined with his practice of mindfulness and the embodiment of really having time that he takes care to strengthen his mind. And so for you to talk about the muscle prompted me on thinking of how a lot of athletes actually use mindfulness and yoga to condition and strengthen their muscle, all in their mind, body, and spirit, actually.
Yes, absolutely, right? To find that focus and to stay in that present moment when they're playing that sport, right, is a practice, right? We can get overwhelmed, right? I know I've gotten, there's times in our life where stress, right? It gets overly stressful and we get overwhelmed with our schedule, or there's just that one day that kicks in and it's just, you feel like, how am I going to get through this day? Or it's going to be unmanageable, right? And so I really feel that helps me in my life with practicing this mindfulness skill, right? And I can understand how it relates to sports, right? And with Tom Brady practicing and finding that focus and in that it's a competitive world out there, right? It gives you that edge to be able to weed out everything else, filter out everything, and stay right here in that moment, in that present moment, and knowing what exactly you have to do. I feel like you become a better decision maker, right? And your memory skills are enhanced. And at the same time with yoga and mindfulness, you're strengthening your body, you're strengthening flexibility, you're increasing your flexibility. Which definitely helps you to become a stronger player, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So you and I have always talked about how yoga and mindfulness are two things that you can't take away from anyone because they're yours. So can you share, like, how do you tell kids to create these mindful moments, or when you, for instance, an example of how you even address a parent who may never have heard of this movement? Like, what do you say to them and how, and that progression of what it may look like?
When I talk to parents as well as kids, I describe when you're practicing mindfulness, you have a stimulus and then you have a response, right? When something happens to you, you usually immediately respond to it, right? Or you react to it, I should say, right? So you react and something bothered you or someone made you angry, you immediately react. And then sometimes you regret that reaction, right? Or you feel like, oh, I wish I never said that, or I didn't really feel that way. But in that moment, you stop thinking about what you want to say, right? So with mindfulness, you're creating that space in between the stimulus and your response. And you taking that breather, I guess, right? You always take that breather. Kids go up to their room to take that breather, right? It's not a punishment. It's a way, it's your space to find yourself again, go inward. And so you can decide, how am I going to respond to this now? Something has happened to me. How am I going to respond? So I like to explain to parents that we're creating that space and we're widening that space enough to help you make the right decision, right, to how you want to respond. So that really, I feel like that really helps people to understand. It helped me to understand exactly what mindfulness is doing for me, right?
I love that. I love it. It's so simple, which oftentimes we just need to because this is a simple practice. It gets complicated when we, like anything, when we add layers, but when we simplify it, and the stimulus and response and the space in between, very easy to understand. Now the complexity comes, like I was telling you earlier, how do we create, like we all have moments you talked about when we get the frazzled feeling. So how do we create space for that mindful moment to go inward? Like, what are your recommendations for our audience? And
I think so. it is a daily practice, right? So you want, and I get it that it's, for me, it's when I had my kids, right? There's that time in my life where I started off with mindfulness and meditation growing up. And then there was a pause, right? So there was a pause where life got so busy, having babies and starting your career and life and your family life and finding that balance between work life and home life, right? So it gets really busy. So I believe for me, there was a pause, right? Where it just got really busy. Then I came back to it after noticing that it can get quite overwhelming, our daily life, right? And so I fell back to that skill, and I looked at it and how can mindfulness and meditation help me in these areas? And it's not, it didn't work out that way where I had an hour to spare and I sat still and I meditated, right? It was more like, how can I bring it into my daily life and how can it fit my lifestyle? Whether it's I just have a minute in between one activity and the other, or maybe I have an overwhelming moment where I'm feeling like, oh, I can't handle this. So I would take that moment, just sit back for just even like 30 seconds to a minute and do a breathing exercise, right? Where I put maybe one hand on my chest, one hand on my belly. This is what I teach the kids in my classes. And you practice, where is my breath going? Is it in my lungs today? Is it in my chest today? Let's find out. Or maybe it's in my belly. Let's find out if my breath is going down there, right? Is it creating a balloon in my belly today? I don't know. So I'm going to close my eyes and figure out where that breath is. And we take a deep breath in. We breathe out, and it just refocuses you. You bring your focus to your breath. And it would just be a minute, right? We would maybe do 5 to 7 breaths like that. I would teach my kids at home, right? With the virtual learning. Just sit back and take those 5 to 7 breaths and just see, now what is it that we're trying to do? What is it that we're trying to answer? What is our goal? And that breath, I tell them, it's the magical breath, right? That breath goes inside your body and stimulates the neurons in your brain, right? I said it brings your attention back here, and it asks your brain to relax your body, right? So it's magical breath, I tell them. And it truly is, because kids don't even realize it, but they're finding that calm space and are able to tackle what is in front of them. You know?
Yes.
So daily practice, right? I did want to tell you one other one, Aarti, that we did recently. We went to see the cherry blossoms the other day as a family. So we were outside and walking around and enjoying the moment. And it's overwhelming. There are lots of people around there. And so you're trying to also keep your distance and keep your mask on and stay safe and all of that. And we found this log that was, the tree was cut, and it was a nice flat piece of log where you could see the lines on it. So we all sat there and we all looked at it, and I thought to myself, how can we just take in this moment instead of it just passing by like that? So we said, let's all trace the lines of the log. So every time you trace one line in one direction, let's take a breath in. And then when it changes direction, let's take a breath out. Or we hold our breath. We breathe in, hold our breath, and then you change direction again and you breathe out. And we just, all of us had our fingers on it. And it was fun for the girls because they were trying not to bang into each other, you know, and going around the lines.
Yeah.
And that was a moment that we captured in 1 minute.
That's awesome. I love that you're, again, using nature speak.
Yes.
There's a great author, Andrew William. I'm saying his name wrong, but it's Andrews is his last name, and he speaks about nature speak and animal speak, and using metaphors in nature to bring it back. Which I just love your example of the log, because it was just like we could pass it by, or we could reflect and take some time. It's like literally telling our brains to stop, to stop, because you could have kept going.
Yes, right? We're taking little pauses in our daily life. And I feel like all of us feel that that's doable, right? When we think of it as mini pauses in our day, then we're like, oh, I can do that, right? It's
Yes.
it's easy to approach mindfulness in that way. And if you want to deepen your practice, you can always increase those pauses, right?
I love that you said that, because I think a lot of folks, as we're moving into this movement, and a lot of great gurus and speakers talk about making it a practice, but then no one talks about, can it just be like a few minutes, which you're saying. Like, I recently heard a speaker who talked about meditation as medicine, and what he was just saying is you just learn to close your eyes a few times a day in the moment, and you go inward and you breathe. And sometimes that's all it takes. You can't live my practice of being someone who does this day in and day out. He's a speaker. He does this as a profession. So he's reminding the common folks, like all of us, to just take those pauses, like you used the word pauses, and like reflect. And that's exactly what you're saying. Like, it doesn't have to be complex. You build your practice over time, is what I hear you saying.
Yeah, absolutely. You build it to fit your lifestyle, right? You can use the nature world, right? If that works for you. I know my older daughter, she loves to draw, and she said that's her world, that's her space, that's where she refocuses and recenters. And my younger daughter, she's like, color. I just want colors, mommy, and that makes me feel better. And so she even sometimes colors while she's learning virtually, just to bring her focus to that moment. And it helps her to listen to what the teacher is saying. Because I've noticed that in my classes, kids love being hands-on, right? They love props and they love to feel things. They love textures. And it's another way of practicing mindfulness, right? Just by just getting in touch with your senses, right?
Yes.
What do you feel right now inside between your fingers? What do you smell, right? What is something that you notice in this room that you may have never noticed before? And it's interesting what kids have to say, because they've been in that room, especially when I taught the after-school class, they're in that room every week. And so they've seen that room many times, and they love putting their hand up and realizing that, hey, I didn't notice that part before on the ceiling. And they start getting involved and interactive in the class, which is nice.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Mira, can you share with us, because you do, because a lot of what you do is after school, when you had started, a lot of the vision. Can you share about the difficulties or challenges, but also the way that your program has come? Because I imagine there might have been a little resistance in the beginning. For instance, in our district, when I approached our district earlier, the fact was they felt like yoga could not be approached because it had those roots of being a spiritual practice. And so they were afraid of the religious lines being skewed. Now, because of COVID, however, they have found the need, of course, social emotional learning, SEL goals are very much aligned with our yoga and mindfulness. So there has been a shift. But can you share with us how your experience has been in terms of getting into the schools and how they've taken it, and anything that the progression of what that's looked like for you?
Yeah, sure. So when I approached the schools, they were, these two particular schools that I've approached were open to it. I think there's a difference, right? You can use yoga and mindfulness in a very spiritual way in your life, if that is your path. But you can also use it to just focus on your body, connecting your body, your mind, right, and your breath, which is what yoga is all about, connecting those three things, right? So when you focus on connecting those three and the benefits of what that can do for our kids in their academic world, right, and in just being in a classroom and learning those social emotional skills, right, to work with others, to self-regulate, right, to accept, to express gratitude. I think that was very much invited, right, into the school environment, because they believe in that. That's part of their motto, right? They believe in treating others with respect, and they believe in working on ourselves to better ourselves. And I think when you look at it that way, which is what it really is about, right? It's how you bring it into your own practice. So your own practice can just be about that, right? For the kids. So we keep it very simple and straightforward, like bringing your hands to your heart. You're just bringing your hands to your heart and bowing, right? Meaning you're respecting the people around you, you're respecting yourself. And I think that that was definitely accepted as an after-school program. And you'd be surprised. I know a lot. I've talked to a lot of parents, right? And they have asked me. One parent asked me, my kid, he's active and he can't sit still, and I'm just not sure how is this going to work. How are you going to bring mindfulness into my child's life? Because I can't get him to sit still for even a moment, right? And you'd be surprised at the way these kids take on these skills during our class. And one of the practices that we do is called savasana. So savasana is laying absolutely still at the end of the program after you've worked your bodies. It's a way to cool off, right? So you lay on your back, absolutely still and silent. And you'd be surprised how many kids are asking me when are we starting the savasana? When are we going to do that? I want to do the savasana. And they lay still because I feel like they're looking for that. They're drawn to feeling that energy and going inward, right? Connecting with themselves. And I was surprised too. And when I first started out, but pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed doing that part with them. And we would tell them stories, right? We would go through an imagination vacation, and we would invite them to close their eyes if they wish, and allow them to get into that vacation without going anywhere. And I think they love that. So
I just love all the things you're bringing up, like bringing up the idea of going inward, and kids are so imaginative and they desire, and then the outpouring of, I think it's so important to recognize that gift of that present space, however it looks, and shavasana and resting in corpse pose. Like I also yesterday just led a quick meditation, and everybody, whether they were sitting or I told them either sitting or laying down, afterwards everybody just felt so relaxed. And you're right, everybody's looking for those moments in our day, right? And we take it for granted that even children, right, these active beings really find such a thing to have someone say to them, I give you permission to rest your body for just a little bit.
Yes, right? Getting that permission. So you're giving yourself permission. You're right, I think. Like giving yourself permission, allowing you to do what your body and your mind are asking for. And everybody goes through at some point, or as a child will at some point go through a stressful situation.
Yes.
And when that happens, you want to be ready with those skills. You want to have those skills tucked in, and so you can fall back on those. Hey, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to approach this new thing that has come up, right?
Totally.
How am I going to step outside my box and tackle this? So it's a great way to tuck it in. Yeah.
I think the more that we empower with tools, like when you respect someone who comes to your house and brings their tools, and we talk about tools and accessibility for kids so that they can do it. Because I do know as an adult, when you realize some of our maladaptive behaviors that we engage in is because we didn't get a chance, or we didn't take advantage of the practice, but the seeds that we sow early and then continue on can save us from practices that can really affect our health and our well-being, and sometimes things that you can't take back, right? When we have some behaviors that can lead to catastrophic effects on our health.
For sure, right? And even as kids, you may not always see it, but the kids are going through those situations right now, right? And learning to become resilient people, and finding that flow, riding that wave, right? That I have that favorite quote that from John Kabat-Zinn, and I think also Swami Satchidananda says that, we cannot stop the waves, but we'll learn to surf, right?
Yeah,
so those waves are coming in, and teaching kids, let's embrace those feelings and those emotions, accept them, and let's ride them out instead of suppressing them, right?
Yeah. That's such a great analogy, right? For kids too to understand, and adults like water, like ride it out. You can't stop them. Absolutely. Like life's going to throw you curveballs. We're not,
Yes.
Nobody has a cakewalk in life. If actually, for a long time, I think we were looking at the Joneses and trying to keep up, or people thought somebody had it better. But if it's anything, I think COVID as a collective trauma has taught us everybody was in it together. The roles are, everybody had their own, and has had and continues to have their own battles they're facing. So for you to mention the fact of what it means to ride those waves is huge. To mention that quote is powerful.
It is. It's one of my favorites, and it reminds me what I have control over, what I don't have control over. And so what I have control over is inside of me. So I'm going to connect with that self.
Yeah.
And decide for myself what is my next step, right?
Totally.
This is coming at me. What am I going to do about it?
So Mira, studies have found about 60 to 80% during this pandemic of reported anxiety. And I actually am seeing a lot of it in my own work, in my coaching practice, where a lot of parents are just having a child who's showing anxiousness in different contexts, and it's just a process. So I wanted to get your take on how do we help children address and families address this anxiety piece, or what are some few tools that could be have moments created, mindful moments in their home or in that moment, if you could share with us.
I also I have some students currently that I tutor math in, and math can be overwhelming, right? And it's also difficult, especially for those families and for those students who have been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, to pay attention enough, right, to understand the concept and keep their focus there, right? And so I think mindfulness really helps to bring that attention back over and over again with each breath. And this is something I learned when I took the 8-week program in mindfulness-based reduction. And that's John Kabat-Zinn's program. And so my instructor, Sharon Thoreau, she would guide us through a mindfulness practice. And it can be easily applied with kids, where with each breath, first you start off and you notice where your mind is going, right? Your mind is distracted. There's so many thoughts that are coming to our mind. I need to do this. I need that. Oh, what about this? And you notice it, you accept it, and then you bring your attention back with every breath you take in. And the next one. And the next one. You keep bringing it back. And it's like a practice, right? You continue to practice that skill and that ability to bring your attention back to now using your breath. And the more we practice, I feel like it really helps. It's helped my students. In the middle of our tutoring session, we will stop. I love Zoom right now because I can see their faces. I can see how they're reacting, right? That face-to-face is as good as it can get right now, right? Yeah. Through Zoom. And so when I notice that they are checking out, something distracted them in the room, or something happened, and they're sort of checking out, we're like, pause for a moment, and we'll even move our bodies. Then that's where yoga comes in, right? You're moving your bodies, and then you're sitting back down, and it just resets. You're resetting every time. Or we'll take our hands and we'll raise them above our heads as we take that breath in. And then we'll slowly, gently close our eyes if we wish, and slowly bring our hands down and see if we can get both of our fingers on both sides to touch at the exact same time. And I will even challenge them. They love challenges, especially the upper grade levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
How slow can you go, right? And you'd be so surprised with how slow they go that I feel like they're not even moving. So they go so slow. And so there's the stillness. It brings stillness through that challenge. I found that's probably the most attractive activity.
That's so great. And again, like those moments of helping with the education piece, because kids are missing how to engage themselves again and when they need to take a break. So for you to use that moment is so great. It's awesome.
It's wonderful to also see when you're teaching them the skills, when they're in their calm space and you're teaching them these skills and helping them to tuck them in. It's really when you're tested. Mm-hmm. And when you're tested in that moment, do you turn to those skills that you are developing over time, right? That you continue to practice over time? Are you turning? And I'll share one story with you with my older daughter. Of course, in parenting, there's some challenges, right? When you're parenting and you come to a disagreement with your daughter. I came to a disagreement with my daughter, and I think she didn't appreciate the way I approached it, right? She didn't agree with it, right? And it was really aggravating. And I noticed her, she stepped back instead of reacting and saying, "Mom, stop saying that," or "Mom, I don't like it." She stopped in that moment and she took in deep breaths. She was like, and she closed her eyes and she took in as many breaths as she needed. And then she shared her feelings and said, "Mom, I did not like the way you said that to me. That hurt, right? Or I did not appreciate it." And I looked at her. I mean, my heart was big, and I was like, okay, she's using it. She's using that moment to connect with herself and decide how she was going to respond.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful. To witness, in your own home, but to know that it works.
Yes.
This stuff works. Like we sometimes underestimate, right? Like because it's inward, and this is not external where we see like these rewards and the glitter and the fame, right? But actually, it works.
Yes,
I have seen it. You have seen it in your own practice, whether it be with kids, like. And it's powerful because it's, again, going back to it, there's no cost associated. Nobody can take it away from you. It's your gift for yourself. And
Yes, Arti, I love how you put that. That's so true, right? It's yours. It's your journey. It's your practice. And I love the way you said that nobody can take it away from you, right? I feel like during this unique year, it's really opened up our eyes to what's in our control, what is here right now. And I really feel that after talking to so many families and so many moms and parents that it's like, wow, okay, I'm just going to take in this present moment. That's probably one thing I got out of this. And number two, like, what do I have control over? I have a control over my thoughts and my feelings and my behavior. And we focus on those three things when I talk to my students, that's all out there and it's all normal and it's all natural to feel those heavy feelings and thoughts going through your mind. What are we going to do about that, right? So one thing I wanted to show you is I always start my classes off with the glitter jar.
Oh, yes.
Right. So the glitter, I ask them to choose 3 different colors. And I ask them, one represents your thoughts, one represents your feelings, and one represents your behavior. And let's give it a shake. So we all like shake our own glitter jars. And the glitter is all over the place, right? It's shaking. Our thoughts and feelings are strong, right? It's heavy. But what do we do to get those thoughts, feelings, and behavior to calm down? We keep it still. And this jar represents our minds and bodies. So let's still bring stillness to our minds and bodies as we allow ourselves to ride that wave, as we allow ourselves to let those three things calm down so that
Yes.
we can tackle the world, right? We can
It's
be our
so
best selves.
true. Mira, I love the glitter jar because, we of course have done it with our groups of kids, but then I did one with my girls too, but then, so there was a kit that was easy. So for anyone who's like, oh my gosh, I can't handle the glitter, they have all kinds of things out there with like the beads now. So if you're not into, but long story short, it still had glitter, but I have it on my desk because at times when I need to like refocus, I will literally look at it or hold it in my hand and I like take a minute and I just use it as a great tool myself. And I always encourage adults to have something on their desk, or something that they create that they can literally put their hand on or do a reset when you're like literally needing a reset physically. And so for you to bring in the jar today is like reminding me of that reset that you can do and what thoughts, feelings, and that reset that we need.
Yes, absolutely. And kids love glitter. They love,
Oh my God, they do.
parents may not, but the kids
Yes.
love that glitter, and it doesn't get old. They want to make jar after jar just to have a new way of making it, or adding one giant piece to it, just to focus on that one piece in that jar also helps.
That's so great. Well, Mira, we have a few minutes left. I do want you, can you share, since we're talking about glitter, and I really have always admired the way that you came up with your business name. Can you share with our audience, like how you came up with your beautiful name for your company?
Sure. Yeah. So the company is called Glitterminds. So I really made up that word, glittle, but I did combine the word glitter from how I explained in the glitter jar. I loved that jar idea when I first read about it and how it helps us to calm our minds. And so I thought that's a wonderful way and wonderful approach to introduce mindfulness to kids. And so I took that word glitter because we are surrounded by glitter. It's a glittering world, right? It's this fast-paced environment, achievement-oriented culture that we all live in. And it's glitter, it's shimmery, it's fun, right? We're having a good time with it. It can be overwhelming too. It can be stressful too. It comes with all different emotions. And I feel like we embrace that glitter, but we're also allowing it to flow and to calm our minds so that so our kids can learn to refocus, right? And revamp themselves, So I put that word glitter with the word little. We're working with little ones and little minds that are growing every day. I put those two words together and created Glitterminds.
Oh my gosh, love it so much.
Thank you,
So
Arthi.
much. So Mira, how can everyone reach you? I mean, it is for our visual audience, but we also have radio audience. Can you let them know how they can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So you can check out our website at glitterminds.com. But the most recent things you will find from me are on my Instagram page. So you can look up Glitterminds LLC on Instagram and follow me there. I'm always thinking of new ideas to introduce mindfulness and yoga to kids. And so I'm always posting on there different pictures and affirmations and different ideas that we can do with our kids. So definitely, if you're looking for new things, you can follow me on there. And of course, we're coming up with in-person and online classes on a monthly basis. So check out our website for more information on that, or our Facebook page as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mira, for being on today.
Thank you so much, Arthi. Thanks for having me.
Great, thank you. And our wonderful audience, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Light Up Your Life. And want to let you know, if any of you are interested in further studies in yoga, they have a kids yoga conference happening virtually for the next 2 weeks. So if you are interested, it's Kids Yoga Con. Take a look online. Thank you as always for letting me tune in into your time, and have a wonderful week ahead. And just remember to enjoy the precious gift of time. Thank you.